Hi, this video is to show how to create crop marks or trim marks in an InDesign file and with bleed. The process is pretty much the same for Adobe Illustrator. Here we are in InDesign. So first thing, I have a page open here, but I'm going to close it and open up a new page. So new page, and turn facing pages off if you don't need it. And then here's my bleed. I want to set this up. I'm going to set it up at 0.125. And because this little chain link is set, you can see it's unset now, but here it's on, and it will automatically fill in the top, bottom, left, right. We don't have to worry about slug. Here's our margin, and everything else can stay the same. So, okay. So here, if you see this little red line here, that indicates where the bleed is, and the bleed runs off the page. That's why it's called a bleed. If we go up to File and Document, and I turn, let's just make this bleed ridiculously large, like an inch would be very large for a bleed. As you can see, I have the preview here set on so I can see what's changing with the bleed. And so let's set this back to 0.125. Some people like 0.25. It really depends on the size of your page. And for an 8.5 by 11, 0.125 should be sufficient. Okay. Now, for this to work, let's just pull in a shape here, and we will give it a color. Go over to our swatches, make sure the fill is set, and we'll just give this a nice green for egg green. And for the bleed to work, it has to overlap the edge of the page. So if you set up your page and your artwork comes to this edge, this is not a proper bleed. When the page is printed and trimmed, it will get cut off improperly because the tolerances on the machines are not perfect. So what will happen when it is printed, you will most likely have a little white line right there that will just drive your boss or the client crazy. So what you do is you bring that all the way over to the edge so that it will print, because this little area right here is actually the bleed. Okay, so if we're going to bleed the entire page, then it would go all the way to the bleed like that. Okay, and so we will go to save this or export it as a PDF. So we go File, and we can go Export. Now I already have some presets in here, and you guys can look up how to set these for yourself because they're really handy. But we'll go through as if we didn't have these, and just go Export. Wait for the little color wheel of death to stop spinning, and we will just put this on the desktop here, and we don't need to call it anything. And then we go to Adobe PDF Print here and save. And this is where you set up your bleeds, and you can just come right over here to Marks and Bleeds, and you can set your crop marks. You don't need to set the bleed marks or any of this other stuff. Some people will just click this here and set them all. None of that is really needed unless your printer is asking for it. And so here you can see that the bleed is set to 0. Well, we can set this manually, or we can set it to whatever we set up our file as. And if you remember, in the document setup, we set the file bleed size to 0.125. So if I check this, it automatically populates that and doesn't allow me to mess it up, which of course we can do. And that's really it. And then you just export this, and then we'll go out to the desktop and find this guy, and desktop, and there it is. We're going to go ahead and open that up in Acrobat, and there we go. And then you can see the trim marks are here, and the little area here that overlaps the black line. Let's zoom in on that a little bit. Oops, not that. Here, okay, here we go. So this area here is the bleed. So when the page is trimmed, it will be cut here, and on the other corners, of course. And this makes sure there's no little white line that is left over.